right. Hey, everyone. How you doing? Good day. Otis Toussaint here, bringing you another episode of My Army Medicine Story, where we basically find some folks out there who are medical professionals within the Army, and we kind of humanize them and tell the story of who they are. And so I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. We've got a good one for you. And so here we go. All right, awesome. And so I'd like to add on my co-hosts of the discussion. And here's the first one. Her name is Mrs. Holly Weaver. She is the most Christmassy soldier that I know. And I hope you enjoy having her here with me. So what's going on, Holly? Wait, you're mute, Holly. You are mute. There you go.
First of all, happy Friday Eve to everyone out there watching, and to you, Otis. Thank you so much for having me. And of course, you know, I'm going to bring the Christmas spirit 365 days out of the year. It just dwells within me. And it's also in my name. You know, you got to be holly jolly.
There you go. There you go.
I'm happy to be here. I'm very excited to have Major Wilson here tonight and talking to him. We've had a chance to talk to him backstage. He's going to be a great guest, and I'm just excited for the energy and, you know, just to share knowledge about Army medicine to anyone out there that might be viewing and interested in serving as a doctor or nurse or another medical specialty. We're here to help you, and let's just get this show started.
All right. So the next co-host, thank you for that awesome intro there, Holly. The next co-host of the discussion, you may know her as the baddest public affairs, not public affairs, the public nurse out there. She is public health nurse out there. She's going to bring the good information that she always do and bring, you know, a really good points of views that we typically enjoy here in the discussion. And here we go. And we got Captain Takara Linson. I almost called you public affairs. My bad.
I know. I said public. Good evening. How are y'all doing today?
We're doing good. We're doing good. I'm having some good old H2O water in my my shaker, and Holly's enjoying the live stream as well. So we appreciate you joining us as always. How you doing today?
To be here. Fantastic. A little bit rushed, but I'm here.
Okay, awesome. And so the last co-host I'd like to introduce, of course, he is the comedian of the group. He's the one that brings a lot of good information, and he's Captain Holly's future boss. So, you know, she's typically in good spirits when she sees him. So it is Captain Brandon Parham. What's going on, Brandon?
Hey, how's it going, Otis?
Hey, it's going well.
Better be on your best behavior, Holly.
There you go.
And tone down that excitement a little bit.
Absolutely.
Never.
Absolutely. And, you know, team, as we always do in our live streams and our live talks, we get along with one another. We have really good chemistry. I think we have a good time and just talking and just sharing good information as well. The information I'd like to put down there in the bottom of the screen, of course, is Captain Holly Weaver's point of contact. So if you're checking out our discussion today and you want some information on possibly, you know, being an Army doc or being an Army nurse, or possibly just wanted to be an officer, a medical officer within the Army, even if it's medical admin, come on, check out the information under there, reach and contact Captain Holly Weaver, who will put you in the right direction, put you in the right contact to help you with your future Army medical career. What do you all think? Do you all agree with that?
Absolutely. If you are interested in Army medicine at all, whether, you know, no matter your specialty, reach out to me and I will get you in the right direction and help answer your questions. If you're not in my area, I will get you to the recruiter that is in your area.
And if she doesn't know the answer, she'll give me a call.
Ask Captain question for him. He may not be my boss yet, but he has a lot of answers because he has been in recruiting a long time.
There you
Because
go.
he's old.
Wow.
Thank you.
There's a rationale for everything. There's a rationale for everything.
We're just having a good time, so it's all in good fun.
If we did not like each other, we would not make fun or tease one another. That's something that I've always realized over my time doing video work, etc. And that's with anybody. So without further ado, I know where everyone is here, they checked in and they want to talk to and they want to find out who this David Wilson, the medical doctor guy is. They want to know who is he. They want to know what's his background all about. They want to know his Army medical story. They want to know who this person is. And they want to know if possibly they could be the next David Wilson, Lieutenant Colonel. Wait, is it Colonel or Lieutenant Colonel? My bad. Was it, what? Hold on. Did I make a mistake there? Well, we'll correct ourselves later. But anyways, let's go ahead and add him on. Without further ado, Dr. David Wilson. Hey, sir, what's going on?
Hey, thanks, guys.
All right, awesome. Sir, I want to say, first of all, thank you for joining our discussion here. We typically the viewers of the discussion don't really get a chance to speak directly to an Army doctor and find out exactly what do you do and exactly their reasons for even joining the military. So I'd like to start off the discussion today by asking, who are you? Why did you just decide to make this a career, and tell us a little bit of your Army medical story.
Sure, thanks, Otis. So my name is Dave Wilson. I am currently an Army hand and elbow surgeon. I'm an orthopedic surgeon by training, and I'm subspecialty trained in hand and elbow surgery. I'm down in San Antonio, Texas, and this is my 21st year associated with the Army. I started in 1999. I was an art major at the University of Colorado, and I dropped out and enlisted. I wanted some excitement, so I went to a bunch of recruiters, and the one that caught my attention was an Army guy. So I served as a enlisted airborne infantryman for 4 years, from 1999 to 2002. And then I applied for a scholarship for undergrad called the Green to Gold Scholarship. It's morphed through the years, but it still exists in several forms. I think for nursing, it's called something else, and for direct transition to Army medicine, there are other programs as well. But there's also just generic undergraduate ROTC scholarships for enlisted soldiers transitioning into the officer ranks. When I started undergrad, I was an art major again. I continued that, and then I quickly changed. When I was enlisted, I grew up in Colorado, and I'd always been a snowboarder, and I wanted to ski and snowboard cheaply. So I had the opportunity to do an EMT course through the Army, and I volunteered as a ski patroller. And doing that, I got an interest in medicine. In musculoskeletal care specifically, I just didn't know it then. So when I went to undergrad, I got good grades. I decided to switch to a biology degree and check all the boxes for pre-med. And I did pretty well. And so they said, hey, you better take the MCAT. So I took the MCAT and I did pretty well. And so they said, yeah, better apply to med school. So I did. And I got in, and they said, you better go. So I went. I have no one in my family that's in medicine, and my interest in medicine has built from there, but it was really in its infancy when I decided to enter medical school. I did some research in undergrad, and I'd been in a lab, so when I interviewed for med school, they asked me what I wanted to be, and all I could remember was lab work, doing like Western blots and stuff, and so I told them a pathologist. That was a terrible idea. I quickly realized that I wanted nothing with pathology. And luckily, during medical school, your first couple of years are just sitting in a classroom and building the fund of knowledge. And then your second couple of years are enacting that knowledge and practicing it in a clinical environment. And the second half was great. The first half sucked. But luckily, I found the garage of medicine, which is orthopedic surgery, and I've found a wonderful group of people and a great home here. So I went, after medical school, I went to Uniformed Services University in Bethesda, Maryland. It's a joint service medical school. I got into some civilian schools, specifically BU, but to live in Boston, I would have had to take out another probably 40, 50 grand a year in loans just to pay for housing. And the alternative was to go to USUHS and get paid to go to med school. The trade-off is a little bit more time, and we can talk about that later, but you just pay with your life, essentially, later on. I went to Madigan Army Medical Center for internship and residency and trained as an orthopedic surgeon, and then I served in Alaska as a general orthopedic surgeon at Fort Wainwright in Fairbanks, Alaska. I deployed twice from Fairbanks, Alaska, and then after 3 years of general practice, I went to fellowship for hand, elbow, and microvascular surgery. And I did that at a civilian institution called Rush University in Chicago. After graduating from fellowship, I became a subspecialty hand, wrist, microvascular, and elbow surgeon, and joined the team down here at Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio. And I currently serve as the chief of hand and microvascular surgery in San Antonio. I've deployed one more time since then. So I've gotten to see all the hot countries. I've been to Egypt. I actually went to Israel for a little bit, Afghanistan, Iraq, and then most recently I was in Syria. And that's me.
Wow.
And I still owe until 2030.
Oh my God.
Pause. I will be 50 years old. I will, I actually pin on Lieutenant Colonel on the 16th of next month, and I still have 9 more years. Just let that settle in a little bit.
Well, congrats on that.
Yeah.
Hey,
but I'll have like 28 and change. When I get out, I'll be 50 years old, and I'm already bald. So, I mean, what else could go wrong?
hey.
We thought you just shaved your head for preference.
Oh, my bad. We talked about wiping things out. Otis, we can wipe that out later.
Awesome. Hey, my bad about the rank earlier, but congratulations on your upcoming promotion regardless. Though,
Thank you.
Absolutely. So I guess we could go into some of the questions that we've got. Of course, if you are viewing today's discussion and you want to send a question over to any of us on the panel here, you can go ahead and type it on whatever platform you're checking it out on, whether it be Facebook, YouTube, or whatever. Holly, do you want to jump in on some questions?
Absolutely. Okay, so the first thing that really just kind of jumps out at me is, so you kind of talked about how you did the ski patrol and that really got you interested in orthopedics, but where did your love of art come from, and what kind of art did you do?
Yeah, so my dad was an artist growing up, and so all of us kids drew a little bit, and I actually still use it now. I do a lot of medical illustration. We'll get a little artsy and then use terms like my favorite media is pen and ink and cross hatching, just drawing, and that really translates well to communicating anatomy, specifically musculoskeletal anatomy and osteology. So I actually do book chapters and articles for medical illustration purposes. So I still use it a little bit now, but I think it also helped, and you'll find themes like that within surgical specialties where it's a very hands-on practice or procedural heavy practice. And people all have all sorts of stories, and there are common themes. You like woodworking, you like artistic things, you like working with your hands, and those interests, as whether they're as a child or as you progress to find your professional career, those themes carry through.
That's awesome. So the work that you've done for medical illustration, are those in Army textbooks, or what kind of publications are they in?
So I haven't done any Army stuff yet. Mostly just peer-reviewed publications within my specialty and within the field.
That's very cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Okay. Brandon, go ahead and ask a question. You're mute, Brandon.
I'm sure a lot of people wish they could say that on a daily basis. Thank you for joining us, and your career is awesome, starting in '99 and going through all the different ranks. I also went through active duty green to gold, so I started enlisted as a medic in the airborne infantry. So can you share a little bit about why you wanted to do orthosurgeon instead of like maybe general surgery or cardiac, or what kind of brought you into that path outside of snowboarding, which I'm a snowboarder. It's awesome.
I wish I had a really profound story to share, but so much of what we do is a combination of the mentors we find, the people that we relate to, the examples that we see, of how people practice, how people live, and the happiness that they have doing those professional jobs. So I have to give credit to just the great orthopedic surgeons that I got to watch and follow when I was a med student. They really instilled and built within me a inspiration to start with, and then a desire to build on that and build a career in orthopedics. Orthopedic surgeons are, first of all, let me just set the record straight and say we are the most humble group of medical professionals out there. So I was attracted to that. No, all joking aside, I think that being able to work with your hands, being able to see the products of your labor, and being able to help people in a meaningful way that produces a functional result, that's pretty unique, and that's hard to find in medicine. It's hard to find and correlate the diagnosis, the treatment, and the observation of clinical improvement with tactile things that you can feel and touch. And within orthopedics, that's readily available throughout all the subspecialties of orthopedic surgery. And so I really enjoyed that. I enjoy tinkering. I enjoy the component of industry and the role that industry has in building implants, advancing technologies, and helping us do our jobs better. And I enjoy the autonomy that industry involvement provides, where you can do one surgery 10 different ways and still be successful. I assume someone's got some bad weather somewhere.
That ain't bad weather. That's somebody's missing.
Yep.
Oh, that's
in St. Peters, Missouri, blue Chevrolet Trailblazer. So
Wow.
you guys see that.
Wow.
Let us know.
Thanks for sharing that, Brandon. That's wild. And of course, Captain Linson, do you have a question that you'd like to ask?
So the only question that I have for you, sir, is that with all of the different subspecialties within the orthopedic surgery, what exactly is it that drew you to specifically hand and elbow? Because honestly, that's the first that I've heard of that. I didn't even know, to be honest, that it was a subspecialty.
all right. We'll forgive that. Like I said, we're humble people, so we accept when people don't know we exist. No, I really like trauma. I like trauma throughout my residency training. So the way it works for education or graduate medical education, is after medical school, your first year is called your internship. And during your internship, most of the time you already know what your residency is going to be in. And a lot of the time your internship is part of a built-in first year of residency. The residency is the period of years following your postgraduate year one or your intern year. And during that time, you become qualified to practice your specialty. And then a fellowship is the subspecialty that follows that. If you break it down, medicine is changing so much. And with work hour restrictions, time of education restrictions, and also just the breadth and depth that we get into within these specialties, there's so much to learn that a lot of surgical subspecialties are getting broken down into smaller and smaller parts. So 30 years ago, it was not uncommon for most large cities to just have general orthopedic surgeons. But over the last 30 years or even more, in bigger metro areas, you have this density of surgeons. And so you'll see a breakdown where the depth goes further for each surgeon, but the breadth, how much they cover amongst all the musculoskeletal components of the human body, decreases. So you can be a sports surgeon and work on shoulders and knees, do ACL reconstructions, PCL reconstructions, kind of the common stuff that you hear about for sports-related injuries. You can be an adult reconstructive surgeon and do total joint replacements for geriatric populations or in post-traumatic settings. You can be a pediatric orthopedic surgeon and work on the other end of the spectrum. You can even be a sports surgeon and just be a shoulder-trained sports surgeon. For me, in practice, I knew I liked trauma. And when I went to a tiny hospital in Fairbanks, Alaska, I didn't see that much trauma. I saw a lot of just, general orthopedics. And as you guys know, the military population in our smaller remote bases is very, very young, and they're very, very active, but they're otherwise healthy. So the injuries that they sustain and that I would treat as a musculoskeletal specialist would be like ankle fractures for our airborne population, lots and lots of sports injuries, especially with the new ACFT, although we won't talk about that. But you can see a big, wide array of different things. And I just decided that I like the upper extremity most. I think the aspects of upper extremity allow me to work in the sports realm. So I do things like Tommy John surgeries to reconstruct the medial elbow ligaments for pitching athletes or overhead athletes. And that's mostly for our dependent population. I can do all kinds of post-traumatic reconstruction for the hand, wrist, elbow. And then the benefit of being a microvascular surgeon is I get to do things like replants and revascularization. So in San Antonio, Brooke Army Medical Center has a unique relationship with our civilian community. The Department of Defense has allocated funds that allow us to treat 50% of the San Antonio area's civilian trauma that occurs. And as a result, we're a level 1 regional trauma center, which gives us a unique practice and unique patient population and a really, really priceless experience as a military surgeon that prepares us and better prepares us, especially in times of low density conflicts where we can stay prepared to do our combat mission. So I do replants and revascs, which are, if you cut your hand or your finger off, then we get to replant it with a microscope.
Wow. Sir, I think it's absolutely amazing the work that BAMC has done. One thing that kind of stood out to me, especially in the work that BAMC has done, is the work with Alex Smith, I believe, the quarterback. He just retired from the Washington football team. So, I remember he went down there, and I believe he received a whole bunch of different surgical procedures for his leg. He had a pretty nasty broken leg. So I remember BAMC definitely led the way in providing a lot of the surgical procedures for him. So shout out to you all down there.
Oh, I'll punt that shout out to Dr. Alderete, the one and only. There are some great people that I have the fortunate privilege of getting to work with, and it humbles and honors me every day to get to work with these folks. Stories like that are great, and they're in Sports Illustrated. But the stories you won't hear about is that 60, 70, 80% burn patient from a combat theater who also gets that same level of care, and all of those resources are there for them, and that's the joy of getting to work with this team. Excellent.
So we've actually got some comments coming in, sir, and I'd like to share them. We've got this one spammer that was there last night, so we're not going to show his comment Of course.
You don't want new shoes, Otis?
No, I've got a lot of shoes in my closet, but the first comment that I see comes from YouTube, and the question is, let's go ahead and share it. Hello, Major Wilson. As an upcoming student at USUHS, do you have any recommendations for an individual looking to become involved in ortho? And I saw he had a little bit of a follow-up to his initial thing. Here it is. More specifically, getting involved in research, student activities, and extracurricular at USUHS.
Yeah, that's. I love that question. Shoot me an email. You'll be on Global soon. Shoot me an email and we'll get you plugged in. We don't have to go through them. We can do it with us here in San Antonio. But they've got great resources there. They're co-located with Walter Reed Military Medical Center, which is a joint service combined orthopedics program with all the specialties. You'll get exposed to every aspect of orthopedic surgery. And so just find those mentors early. Find some guys locally. I don't know what service you're going into. I didn't think it said. But all services are at USUHS. So a couple public health a year, and then equal amounts of Navy, Air Force, and Army. So regardless of service, there are plenty of resources and mentors that you'll have access to for every specialty. But yeah, shoot me an email once you get on Global.
He said he's going to the Army.
Well, you made a good choice then.
It just popped up. Yeah.
If this person that's going into the Army wants to shoot me an email, I'll link you up with Major Wilson so you can just have a mentor right away and start asking those questions and get connected and set on the right track.
Excellent. And especially if you want to know more about Green to Gold, which 3 of the 5 panelists have participated in to get into the Army officer side. I'm a Green to Gold scholar myself. Back in 2005 is when I got out active duty. Went to school and came back as a medical admin officer. So I had a great time. I was a medic just like you too, Parham. And you know, awesome. I guess the only difference between all 3 of us is that one of us got hair and the other 2 don't. So
I still got a lot, which is surprising because my dad has nothing.
It is all good. It is all good. So here's another question that I see coming on here. And this is a long question. Well, no, we're not going to go into that one. We'll go into the shorter one. Here's the question. I'm a kinesiology undergrad, and I want to integrate that with advanced robotics career, further research advanced prosthetics. Do you have any advice? Thanks. Wow.
Yeah, I wish I could say I'm a genius with that stuff. But I'm not. There are some here at BAMC though. BAMC is co-located with a entity called the Institute for Surgical Research, the Army Institute for Surgical Research, and it is in the millions of dollars, multi-millions of dollars every year that go into topics like this and building. The new thing is myoelectric prostheses, right? So coordinating the computer side with the functional side and using osteo-integration and other aspects of next generation upper and lower extremity prosthetics. So if you have an interest, email Holly. And I don't know if you're interested in doing an internship in it or if you just wanted to collaborate on research throughout it. But there may be some people at ISR that we can get you hooked up with.
Excellent, excellent. Hey, Richard Karasi, we see your comments. Don't worry about it. We see your comment, and the comment is that he left was Dr. Wilson rocks. He's a total bad. Do you have paid actors to come in and join us on this chat, sir?
Apparently, he's our prosthetist. Speaking of prosthetics, he's our prosthetist in the clinic.
Wow, prosthetist. That's a cool word. So here's another question that we see right here. This is the long question. So here we go. I don't know where Brandon is, so I'll kick him out of here real fast. Bam. So the question is, hello, sir. Thank you for taking the time to do this interview. I'm a current first-year medical student and Army HPSB recipient interested in the field of orthopedic surgery. Can you share about how balance your responsibilities as a doctor as well as an Army officer? That's a good question. Also, were there any differences in your medical practice in orthopedics when deployed?
Those are two great questions. We'll do the first one. I think each one warrants a good explanation. I became an Army officer because I wanted to be an Army officer. I absolutely bought into the idea of being an Army leader, and I still have to work every day on trying to do that, but also refining my goals within Army medicine to try to achieve that. I think they're two distinct yet very interrelated things, and I think you can be a good surgeon and be less good as an Army officer. I think you can be a great Army officer and seek out things like administrative roles, hospital command, deputy command in hospitals, and still have lots and lots of professional satisfaction from maintaining your skills as an orthopedic surgeon. Finding a balance, though, I think is hard, and I can't say that I have found that yet. As I get older and lose even more hair, I work to find that balance. I can share a story of a wonderful person I met who I wish was watching. She was my NCOIC as I was Department of Surgery chief in Alaska, and she would hound me to be a better leader. And she was an E7, phenomenal leader, and I learned so much from her. I learned so much from my counterparts, and mostly I learned that I need to just try harder. So while I haven't found that balance yet, I do plan to. I have enough time. I own 9 more years to the United States Army, and I've given 21. So I hope that by the time I get out of the Army, I can answer this question better. But my only advice is just to try harder. And when you don't try on either of those things, whether it's the profession of medicine that you've chosen or your job as an Army leader, I think you fail. With regard to medical practice when deployed, absolutely it changes. I think deployments change, though. So we talked a little bit in the beginning about the depth and breadth of medicine, being subspecialized, living in a little box like I do, specific to the upper extremity. And then when you deploy, all that goes out the window, and you are there just to try and help in any way you can. So the best deployment I ever had was in 17-18, and it was in Afghanistan. It was working for a very special group of people with a very special group of people. And I've never deployed in a cash setting. I've always deployed in forward surgical teams, damage control surgical teams, and small little split teams. And I found a lot of satisfaction doing that, working with a small group of people, learning who those people are, and learning how to work well with them is really fun. But to be honest, I didn't do a lot of sexy orthopedics. I just didn't. I wasn't replanting or rebasking cut off limbs. You just don't have the resources to do that. The best time and experiences I had were taking out little epidermal inclusion cysts or lancing abscesses or injecting joints, helping Rangers and SF guys get back in the fight. And I've had some cool experiences getting to do things like surgery in a flying C-130 for 4 combat injured Rangers who had junctional injuries to their femoral arteries. And so little pieces like that where you get to do some good are really, really important. So there's a cat poster phrase, and it's like hunt the good stuff, but really just, you're not always going to do what you expect to do, but you just got to find ways to enjoy it and find the things that you enjoy, and knowing yourself and knowing what you enjoy helps you do that. So I like deploying. I owe 9 more years. I'll say that a few more times before we finish, just to burn it in. But in those 9 years, I expect to deploy 4 or 5 more times, and I hope to have 2 or 3. It's not going to be every time, but I hope to have 2 or 3 more really quality life experiences like I've had on a few deployments. I went on a little bit of a tangent there. Bottom line, no deployment's the same, and you just got to find a way to get some professional satisfaction out of it.
Absolutely. You said so many different good things that we could ask questions from in your tangent, as you would say. But one thing that I would like to ask you about is you kind of mentioned having mentors earlier, and then you talked about trying harder. Who has inspired you specifically to try harder, and what kind of qualities do they have as a leader that you look up to?
Yeah, I almost everyone on every day inspires me to try harder. Your patients will, the people you work with, but sometimes it's the person who gives you a little grief for something that you maybe didn't try enough for. You know, that time you turned down a leadership opportunity and you could have made a difference. And that's the one that I always fall back on for an individual who I'm going to need to text right after this and say that I didn't give her name. But I mean, our program director will, so here, our program director, he runs the residency side. And as a staff orthopedic surgeon within a residency training program, that's someone that I consider a mentor. And I look to him as kind of a senior teacher within orthopedic surgery and within military medicine. He has had a long career. He's far senior to me. And when he gives me advice on how I can be a better teacher to the residents, that's a mentorship that I seek. And I'll ask him questions and try to get on advice, and also seek out feedback, you know, because everyone has an opinion of how you do. So looking for that feedback and building on it, I think is important. Did I answer your question, or did I just go on another tangent?
I think it was a little bit of both, but it was good. It was good.
All right.
Okay, so one more question that I have, and then I'll let my colleagues jump in as well. You talked about performing surgery while flying on a deployment on a what was the airplane again that you said?
C-130.
C-130. Okay, so can you just walk us through, because I'm sure this memory is clear as day, because there's memories that you have from those adrenaline experiences, you know, the fight or flight moments that you're never going to forget. So can you just kind of walk us through what the teamwork was like, you know, when you were performing surgery while flying?
Sure. So I wish I could make it sound sexier than it is. In my mind, it was so much fun. The instance was in an undisclosed location in a certain part of Afghanistan. Within military medicine, especially within the Joint Special Operations community, they will have assets that are organic to them, meaning that they have surgical teams that they bring and carry with them. And I've had the fortunate opportunity to get to learn from some of these guys. And I haven't had success getting on a team yet, but I still plan to work for it. Their team was covering a operation that a JSOC team was performing, and they took some casualties. They took 4 casualties. One of them just had hand injuries. This was before I was a hand surgeon to realize how cool that was. And then the other 3 had junctional injuries. So junctional injuries are if you have a vascular injury that occurs where you can put a tourniquet on, then that's really easy to temporize and get you off to the next level of care and save your life through that transition. A junctional injury occurs above the level or proximal to the area where you can apply a tourniquet. And it's much, much harder to stop blood flow without direct vascular access. And so 3 of our patients had that. And so trying to get high junctional tourniquets, trying to get lower extremity junctional tourniquets in the pelvis and apply pressure and things like that is difficult. And so our team was part of a kind of the next step back. So we were 15 air minutes away from the objective, and we waited with rotors going in a C-130, which is just a big cargo Air Force plane. And we had a CCAT team with us, which is an Air Force critical care, in-flight care team. They have an ER or an anesthesia asset, and then critical care nursing assets, and then all the toys to go with that. We also had some Air Force special operations medics, and then we had my team, and my team was a CRNA, a general surgeon, myself, and a medic. And I've found that working in those little small teams is just the most rewarding opportunity that you can have. Again, getting to know the people, appreciate them, and get to work with them and build that relationship is so much fun. So our setup was we had one stretcher or one gurney, and we put it on what's called I don't know what the original or the real term is. We called it a rickshaw, whatever that two-wheeled deal is. So we strapped it to the rickshaw, we centered it in the bird, and then we used ratchet straps to hold it down, hold the rickshaw down, and then the gurney itself gets sort of latched and locked into the rickshaw. So that was our OR bed. Everything else was in bags or packs that could then be strapped onto that so we could be mobile. And so without getting into the care, it was nothing super sexy. It was just the ability to take care of those people in flight in the 45 air minutes it took us to get to the fixed hospital, which was Bagram in Afghanistan, and to provide that transition, that care, run into the ORs that were waiting because all the communication is made, to be able to talk to the orthopedic surgeons that received those patients and convey the in-flight care that occurred, the point of injury care that occurred, and then to carry on and help in certain instances with those patients, especially because half the time when you're dropping them off, you knew the orthopods that were working on them and the general surgeons. That's so much fun. So that's the way I remember that experience.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. That definitely painted a picture in my mind of kind of what's going on. And I 100% agree with you that it's very rewarding to work in those small teams, no matter, what you're doing in medicine or just in your work life. It's rewarding to get to know the people that you're working with.
Holly, have you been in a C-130?
No.
It's brutal. So I have much respect for the fact that you did the surgery in a C-130. I've been in several of them, and it's absolutely the worst plane ever.
Thanks for the C-130 joke. Yeah.
Yep.
No, I don't want to paint the picture that it's me in there saving lives doing all this stuff. It's really not. It's doing simple things. It's doing medic work. It's doing IV access. It's trying to get blood going, helping the anesthesia team get your patient to sleep and get them comfortable, stabilizing and resuscitating. It's even the little stuff. It's not making a big incision and like doing cardiac massage. It's the little things, and those are the things that I think step out of the orthopedic realm that we live in here in the States and allow us to kind of take a step back when we're in theater and just do what needs to be done, and that's what's so much fun.
Sir, so I've I want to go ahead and start addressing some of the comments that we have coming in, and I will see. Let's go ahead and post some of the questions, and there are some questions here that we see that are coming in that today's discussion and these series that we have here with my Army Military Medicine Story. It's about these medical specialists that are coming in and actually talking to us. We don't necessarily have information on specifically, like say, for instance, this question that we see coming up here from Skay Anderson. And I don't want to dismiss your question, so let's go ahead and bring it up, and maybe we could point them in the right direction. These other military professionals here can help us out. The question was, does Fort Sill still take care of deceased retired military personnel spouses? I will say to you, Skay, that you probably need to connect with a casualty affairs officer that's out there at Fort Sill. Not necessarily us here on this discussion panel. As someone who's been trained in casualty affairs when I was in Germany, those are the individuals that you've got to talk to specifically concerning questions like these. So unfortunately, we're not able to give you the answer, but I can tell you, you could possibly go and contact a casualty affairs officer out there at Fort Sill. And if, of course, you have any other questions, you could send Holly an email, and we'll point you in the right direction of who you need to talk to. So thank you for your question, Skay Anderson. Sir, let's kind of go into maybe some of the questions that I've got personally for you. And I'd like to jump in because I kind of left for a moment, but I'm back. What words would you tell someone who possibly may be interested or really unsure about which specialty to get into, especially, post-medical school, et cetera? And what are some of those things that they can think of when they really want to get into specialty A versus specialty Z?
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I understand the question. So what would I tell someone who's looking to find inspiration for a career in medicine? Like,
yes, whatever specialty. Yeah, what specialty they really want to get into. How could they know which specialty really they want to spend, possibly extra time in school to possibly study? What was the thing that helped you make your decision, and what would you tell them in helping make their decision?
I would say just see everything. The second half of medical school, or at least it was when I was there. Now the exposure is a little earlier, which I think is good. You'll get exposed or have the opportunity to get exposed to all different aspects of medicine. You can rotate for weeks or months on various specialties and subspecialties within medicine. And if I would just try everything and see what fits. I think me telling someone what I found inspiring and expecting them to find the same thing inspiring is probably unrealistic and boastful. So I would just see everything. And if you see something that clicks, dig into it deeper and find out what different aspects there are. If you say you like doing procedural things, but you also find radiology very interesting, and you think of radiologists as just sitting in a dark room, well, not all of them do. There's something called interventional radiology, and it's a very, very procedure heavy, image guided interventional practice that saves lives every day. So just like the IR example for interventional radiology, there's, interventional cardiology within cardiac medicine. So I don't get turned off too much by something. If you find an interest, dig into it deeper, become a knowledgeable person about that specialty and all that it offers, and you may find something that you really enjoy. For me, it was, having an artistic background and having kind of a photographic, not photographic memory, but just, pictures work for me. So anatomy makes sense to me. So I sucked at biochemistry. And we won't get into what grade I got in biochemistry in med school, but let's just say it wasn't good.
C's get degrees.
Yeah, I had 2 C's in my life through high school, and those are biochemistry in medical school and calculus in college. So there's full disclosure.
Wow.
But so pictures make sense, anatomy makes sense. So find something that makes sense to you and you can really get inspired about it. And for me, it's orthopedics and musculoskeletal anatomy and changing that. But for you, it may be something different.
I think that's a really good question, Otis. We run into a lot of, I guess here in Missouri, they call them assistant physicians that went through med school and then went to a residency and decided they didn't want to do whatever residency they got into, and essentially just work as an assistant physician. So I think that's a lot of good information.
Okay. Thank you, Brandon. Sir, we've got some more comments and questions coming in. Let's go ahead and post them all. The next comment I see from Richard Karasi. I see you, Richard Karasi. And Richard Karasi says, "You are a wonderful teacher. I see your interaction with your team, and it goes back to my statement that you rock." Well, Richard, I'm sure our Dr. David Wilson appreciates your comment. Of course,
Mr. Karasi.
Man, is Mr. Karasi, what does he do?
He's our prosthetist in the clinic, so he builds all of the special braces, special devices, starting with prosthetics development, fitting, and things like that. So whether it's the upper extremity, the lower extremity, building something that helps you mobilize or work within the restrictions following an injury or following a surgery, he helps you get there through prosthetics and other devices.
Excellent. I wonder if you guys do you guys ever work with our transitioning athletes? So like, DoD Warrior Games. Do you work with any of the athletes that are a participant there?
A lot of the surgeons do, specifically the sports providers, because that sort of fits within their specialty. For what I do, not unless they get injured, and then I see them.
Understood.
Injured specific to my world, which is like mid-humerus to fingertip.
Ooh, man. There's a lot of things that goes on there. So here's another question that I see coming in. Let's go ahead and post it. The question is, sir, where do you see the future of civilian military hospital partnerships and opportunities for military physicians, such as moonlighting or civilian clinical variety?
Well, I am no expert in this field, and I apologize to any general officers or senior Army leaders that are listening if I misspeak. But I know of a few. So I talked a little bit about the specific DoD funds that allow us to take care of a civilian population in San Antonio, and that is quite unique for the military. It's unique specifically on a level 1 trauma center platform, and the ability to train and treat in that environment is unsurpassed in military medicine. Brooke Army Medical Center is hands down the best trauma training program that we have in the military. And that's irregardless of specialty, but specific to orthopedics, you do not get a better education in how to manage trauma injuries than you do here at Brooke Army Medical Center. And that, I think, is very, very directly related to our ability to treat civilian patients. There are other models out there. There are some friends of mine who work primarily at civilian centers, but they're assigned to military treatment facilities or MTFs. But their main job is to work in that civilian partnership hospital. And a lot of those are set up as level 1s to sort of mirror the exposure that you can only get at a high acuity trauma facility. So they exist. I think they exist more now than they did 5 years ago, more 5 years ago than they did 10 years ago. So I think it's logarithmic, and the increase we're going to see in the number of civilian military hospital partnerships, as well as the prevalence of what I do, the guys that do what I do, being able to be part of those partnerships. With regard to moonlighting, that's all just site dependent. I think there are good arguments for it, for maintaining relevance within military medicine and within your military specialty. So I think it's a good thing, but it's very, very situation and facility dependent, so I won't make too much comments about that.
Hey,
Absolutely.
Otis.
Yes,
Oh.
you read my mind. You read my mind. I know exactly what you're about to say.
It's because we're on the same level, and probably
Before
Brandon
you start your little telepathy thing, I don't know, maybe we're on the same level. I do want to touch on the civilian military hospital partnerships. I know that the Air Force has a partnership with St. Louis University, and we had some individuals come out to figure out which hospitals were the best here in St. Louis, the Trauma One centers, like Dr. Wilson said, to bring the Army into. So those are definitely, I think, in the works around the country in the future.
Otis, definitely please share with us, some of the videography stuff that you've done. And you have been actually in the room as Army Medicine has been meeting with these civilian hospitals because of your job. So, just let us know, what is Army Medicine doing that we are on the forefront with this civilian partnership, and how are we getting our surgeons and our nurses the training that they need to stay ready in the fight?
Well, I don't want to talk too much on something that I don't know in specifics of, but I had the opportunity to go to Cooper University out there in New Jersey, Pennsylvania area, and they have an awesome partnership with Army Medicine and their university's training partnership for their surgeons and their medical professionals. So this is not something that's just going on at Cooper. This is going on at other places where trauma, you're going to see more cases and opportunities for training on trauma, sir. So, I understand that BAMC is a military leader as far as the trauma training opportunities, but there are multiple other universities that is giving Army Medicine that training opportunity. And I had the chance of doing some videography, and we're creating some products fairly soon to show off really the awesome partnerships that we have in Army Medicine with universities and other medical hospitals across the country. So thank you, Holly, for that alley-oop.
Let me make a caveat to my statement that we're the best at BAMC. my unabashed, unapologetic plug for BAMC is for Orthopaedic Surgery Residency. Training in the military and making those decisions to train in a residency in the military is a big decision. And if you have gone to civilian medical school, you may be an HBSB scholarship recipient, and you know that when you apply, you have to apply to military centers as well until you're offered a deferment to train in the civilian world for residency. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, I was in this group, are concerned about the quality of education that you might receive in a military setting as opposed to in a civilian setting. And I will tell you, in my humble, because we're humble, right? So in my humble opinion, it is better in every way. And I think the exposure you get, the autonomy that you get, the people that you're exposed to and the patients you get to treat are just unrivaled. And then to transition from training in that environment to serving in that environment just really sets you up for success during your period of service. So when you're making that decision and choice for a place to come, apply to, and visit, come to Brooke Army Medical Center and see us in the Department of Orthopaedic Surgery.
Awesome. So, sir, I don't blame you for giving BAMC its props. Obviously, yes, you work there, but obviously they've pushed out a lot of great Army medical professionals, yourself included. And I guess in closing, sir, I just want to say thank you for coming and just talking with us so humbly, coming and talking with us and sharing your information, sharing all this love that you have for Army Medicine, your specialty included. People need to know that, hey, you can do everything from A to Z as far as your Army medical career, and you are an example of such. So I just want to say thank you for coming out, and anyone else want to give some parting words?
Absolutely. Thank you, Otis, and thank you, Dr. Wilson. I knew that this was going to be a great live stream, and you did not disappoint. So it was great talking to you. We would love to have you on again in the future. And if you know of other humble surgeons,
Nailing that one in.
if you know of other surgeons or physicians, you know, at BAMC that you think would be great on this show, we would love your recommendations and send them our way so we can feature them as well.
Will do. Thanks, guys, for having me. I really appreciate it. And if I may, I'll just say, you know, for those considering joining our team, it's a unique job. It's hard. There's parts of it that suck. Working within the constraints of the structure of the military sometimes is difficult, but there are ways to really enjoy what you do. And when you find a patient population that you can enjoy as much as we have, it's very rewarding. So please feel free to shoot me a message or ask me further questions if you have them.
Awesome. So everyone just hang out in the broadcast room. Let's talk a little bit more. I'll go ahead and close this off. Thank you again, y'all.
Thanks.
All right. So let's go ahead and shift it over here. So in closing, we had an opportunity to talk to the great Dr. Wilson about his medical career and his medical opportunities. If you're looking for an opportunity to possibly join our Army medical team, if you want to get your medical school paid for, if you want to have the opportunity to become a highly qualified nurse like two of my co-hosts, if you're looking for an opportunity to even be a company commander one day within a medical recruiting company, that's Captain Parham. And if you're looking for an opportunity to learn more about Army medicine and what Army medicine can do for you, reach out to us and we'll give you that information. As we always say here in closing, Army medicine is Army strong. Thank you, y'all.